How are we doing today? They are neighbors. Ian with eTrailer here. Today we're going to be looking at our CURT Class III hitch on our 2024 Ford Edge. Let's get into a couple features and then that install. Our hitch here is going to be a great option for this vehicle. Although it is a somewhat larger passenger vehicle, it's not quite to that Expedition stance where we've got a whole bunch of room inside and roof rails. With this particular neighbor, unfortunately, they don't have the roof rails either, and we see that pretty often on the Ford Edges, so you're kind of limited to just the rear cargo space. This hitch is going to open you up to a cargo carrier, a bike rack, and a bunch of other options, even to be able to tow, and we've even got a 4-pole set up so this neighbor here can tow something if they need to. So again, great option if you need to open up a little bit of space, or maybe you've got a towable that you want to bring with you out to the campsite. This is going to solve that problem. Our hitch here is going to feature a 5/8 pin hole. Does not come with the kit, so you can look at different options on the website to include our locking options. And then the safety chain loops are pretty accessible underneath here. They are a little bit wider, so they can be a little cumbersome when it comes to the clevis types, but those S-binders work just fine on it as well. And one measurement to keep in mind while we're looking at this, that way if you already have a cargo carrier or accessory, if we're looking from the center of that hitch pin hole out to the edge of the bumper, we're just at 5 inches. So that's going to give you an idea from the center of your hitch pin hole on your accessory out to the full clearance distance of whether it's a folding carrier or anything like that. That'll give you an idea of how to kind of gauge whether this is going to be sitting far enough back for you or if you'll need an extension. And then another measurement to keep in mind for ground clearance, we're looking from the ground to the top of the receiver tube hole about 1 foot. So that's going to give you an idea of that ground clearance. That way if you've got an accessory, or even if you're going to be putting on some type of drop or a riser for your hitch, that'll give you an idea of where that's going to sit. And our hitch here is going to be featuring a 4,500 pound towing capacity and 675 on the tongue weight. That does show the same number as far as width weight distribution, so there's no change there. And you will want to go to your vehicle owner's manual to make sure that you double check, regardless of what your submodel is, what particular weight that vehicle is going to be able to tow and have on that tongue weight, because it may be lower than what the hitch is rated at, and you always want to go with the lower of the two numbers. And this hitch here is going to have a gloss black finish to it. I think it really matches with all the accent pieces and plastics of this particular Edge. They're all gloss as well. If you would prefer a matte black finish, your better option is going to be just the eTrailer hitch. That is a matte black opposed to this gloss finish. But again, both of those are going to be a no trim situation. We didn't have to cut anything out of the fascia. Everything just sits up and bolts up nicely without having to cut any of the existing pieces of the vehicle. And getting into the install of this, we are going to be routing some bolts into the frame on each side of the vehicle. It's really not that difficult. It's just kind of tedious and time consuming, and you really got to watch the fish wires while we're getting into that. I'm going to walk you through that process for all those DI wires, but if you happen to watch this video and you feel like it's something you don't feel like you have the time or want to tackle, go ahead and check out Dealer Locator there on our website. We'd be happy to find you a trained professional that can get that put on, but otherwise, let's go ahead and hop into that install. And behind our fascia here, we've got some plastic covers just behind the bumper. We're going to need to remove 2 screws on the outside here. Those are 5.5s. And up underneath, we're going to have 2 10mm bolts, and we will be repeating any process that we do on one side on the other as well. Then we're going to grab the plastic panel. You'll pull that away from the bumper and then down, and that should come out. Now we will be dropping the exhaust off of the hangers, so you'll want to run a cam buckle or something along the lines. You can pick up one of these at etrailer.com as well. These are our straps. So what we'll do is find a couple good mounting points. I think up on this bracket above is probably going to be our best shot. Just hook right up onto that. I did the same thing on the other side. I want this to go right behind our exhaust muffler, and we'll just give that good support for now, and we'll kind of loosen it up as we need to move it down. Now it's best to take a little bit of soapy water and just spray into that isolator and try to get that shaft lubricated so we can pull that out of there. You can either use an exhaust removal tool or hanger removal tool here, or sometimes you can get it with a pry bar as well. Then I'm going to take our strap and just lower us down a little bit more. That way we've got plenty of room to get the hitch up into place. Now there's going to be 4 spots that we're adding a carriage bolt, and these spacers will need to fish wire through the holes in the frame rail to do so. I like to start on these outside ones first. We're going to be going to this hole and this hole and this hole and this hole. So we'll start by taking the end that's going to take the bolt, and we're going straight through this oval shaped hole because that's what's going to fit our spacer and bolt. We will then slide the spacer over and thread the bolt. And then we'll feed the block through first. Followed by the bolt. And then we'll pull that through the hole. And then what I like to do is at the end of these, we're going to make just a little bend so that way it doesn't come back out of the hitch, because we're going to go ahead and take both of these ones that are on the side of the frame rail and just have those sit inside for now, because we're going to have to slide the edge of the hitch up over this. We'll repeat the same process with the other 3 holes, and then once I've got those up there, I'll show you what that looks like. Now with all 4 bolts in place, you'll want to just push these 2 on the side back in so they sit like that. And while we're down here, I wanted to bring our attention to the center of the vehicle and this heat shield. In the instructions, it talks about there being a stud closer to the edge of the center of the vehicle on this heat shield that you would have to trim off. We don't see that stud here on our particular vehicle, but if you do, they've got good clear pictures of how to die grind that off or just cut it off completely. It will have to be removed, but I don't believe that either of these studs that we've got are the same ones they're showing in the picture up closer. So we're just going to proceed as normal, but that may be something you run into and you'd have to cut those off. Now before we get the hitch up, we need to make sure we have our fish wires in the right place. So we'll start with our ones from the top here. We're going to go through the back of the hitch and just pull that into place. Grab our second one and do the same thing for our side ones. Again, you want to make sure those studs are not sticking out, because we will need to have them come through once we've got that up. And then we'll take our 2 bottom studs, and there are 2 smaller holes here that we'll feed those through the back of. Then we're going to hang on to our wires as we go up. We'll kind of rock that back towards us. Slowly work that up into place. And then once you've got the sides lined up, go ahead and pull those studs through. And we'll let that hang in place for now. Now, as we're putting the hardware up onto the bolts that we put in place, there are going to be 2 types of nuts. You're getting these flange nuts, and then what we're going to concentrate in the moment is this loose nut by itself, and then the lock washer. That's going to go on the rearmost lower bolt that we've got here. So we'll just go ahead and thread that fish wire off. Then what you can do is kind of hold that bolt in place while you're doing that so it doesn't jump back up into the frame there. And we're going to put some good pressure on that just again so it doesn't move while we slide the lock washer up. And then we'll follow that up with just our regular nut here. And we'll just get that finger tight into place. And these other 3 bolts here are going to be getting these flange nuts, and then we'll repeat that process on the other side as well. Then what you can do if you're kind of having problems getting these to go finger tight up against the hitch, just grab onto the stud of the bolt and give that a tug so those spacer blocks back behind there seat properly. Now we're going to need to go back with a torque wrench, and we're going to torque all of the hardware to the specifications shown in the instruction manual. Now I did want to talk about the bolt that's going to be furthest back, the one that's got the lock washer and the nut on it. We did end up having to use an 11/16 12 point to get in between the edge of this flange and the nut. So that's going to be your best route, and it was kind of the same situation on the other side. It's just very, very cramped up against that little ledge, so you're going to want to use that skinnier socket for that. Now we're at the point we're ready to put the exhaust hangers back into place. Again, you'll just want to shoot some soapy water up into those isolators. That way the studs slide in nice and easy, and then we'd be putting on our plastic panels after that. And that's going to be our look at an installation of the CURT Class III 2-inch by 2-inch hitch on our 2024 Ford Edge. My name's Ian with eTrailer. I appreciate you watching.